Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before the arrival of Islam, pre-Islamic Arab society was known to adhere to paganism, namely worshipping many gods and idols, as well as animistic and dynamistic beliefs. However, there was also a small group that continued to adhere to the teachings of the Hanif religion, the monotheistic religion brought by the Prophet Abraham and the prophets after him. This Hanif religion emphasizes the worship of only one God, Allah, and avoiding acts of shirk. Before the arrival of Islam, Arab society lived in an era known as the Age of Jahiliyyah, the period of ignorance. However, this ignorance did not mean having no civilization or culture, but rather more spiritual and moral ignorance, especially in terms of faith, belief, worship, and ethics of life. Pre-Islamic Arab beliefs, idol worship, gods, and supernatural powers. Before the advent of Islam, the majority of Arab society lived in a polytheistic belief system, that is, worshipping many gods or deities. This was part of the conditions of the Jahiliyyah era, a period of spiritual darkness marked by deviations from the teachings of monotheism that were once brought by the Prophet Abraham and his descendants. The Arabs worshipped idols, in Arabic called ashnam or outsan, which they considered to be intermediaries to a higher god or as symbols of supernatural powers that could help them in their daily lives, such as matters of sustenance, health, or protection from enemies. These idols were not only placed in the Kaaba, but were also spread across various regions of Arabia. Each tribe had its own idols, and they made them a symbol of identity and spiritual protection. Hello all friends of Islamic Shade. This time we will discuss idols that were famous in the pre-Islamic era. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Hopefully this video will be useful for all of us. Discussing idols requires precision and extensive knowledge of worship by humans to materialized objects. When this requires a distinction and also a classification for define what is meant by an idol. Idols. In its etymology, it means a statue deified to be worshipped. This meaning is still very broad because almost all religions in the world embody their god with statues in the context of worship. This broad meaning needs to be limited in this discussion, that the word idol refers to a statue that was deified and worshipped by Arab society before the arrival of Islam in the early days of Islam. In the pre-Islamic period, the idols discussed were idols that existed in the history of Arab civilization, which began after the Prophet Ismail. In the early days of Islam, idols were discussed are idols that are still worshipped at that time towards the birth and early period of Islam. Discussion about the idols that are worshipped by Arabs, it is very important to remember, knowledge generally refers only to 4 famous idols in Arabic, namely Allat, Lata, Manat, Mana, Al-Uzza, and Hubal. If researched again in historical literature, then found the name of a figure in Arabic named Abd al-Manaf and Abd al-Shams. The name Abd al-Manaf itself has meaning, servant of Dawa Manaf. Abd al-Manaf is the father of Rasulullah's grandfather was named Hashim. Name Abd al-Shams means servant of the god Shams. If we look at the name, it can be seen that the Arabs at that time, especially the Quraysh Arabs, also worshipped the sun. Abd al-Shams was the son of Abd al-Manaf. So from the discussion, it can be seen that the Arab gods were not only Allat, Manat, Al-Uzza, and Hubal. In the discussion later, it will be explained that the Arabs had many idols that were worshipped and also worshipped. This information aims to make knowledge about the idols of the Arabs more dynamic and does not rule out the possibility of further research on the sociological relationship of society with idols such as the purpose of worship, the method of worship, the social strata of society that worships idols, and so on. There is information during the period of ignorance before the birth of Islam that the Kaaba was surrounded by idols that numbered approximately 360. Actually, this information is still too large in general if not explained with the names of the idols. It is very possible that of the 360 idols, there were several of the same idols, considering that the Quraysh Arabs, who inhabited the city of Mecca at that time, had 14 clans or bani. It is very possible that each clan had its own idol because each clan had a sense of love and pride for their respective clans. If each clan had a rich one, then it is very possible that the rich family in their worship would not want to share idols in worship. In addition to these statements, it is actually necessary to delve deeper into the four highest idols of the Arabs during the period of ignorance, namely Hubal, Al-Lat, Manat, and Al-Uzza. The information that needs to be delved into is the position of these idols. This means that there are similarities between Arab idols or Arab gods and the gods in Greek and Roman civilizations. As is known, Zeus was the highest and greatest god of the ancient Greeks among other gods such as Hera, Aphrodite, Apollo, Athena, Ares, and so on. In ancient Roman civilization, it is also mentioned that the god Jupiter is the highest and greatest god than other gods such as Juno, Venus, Saturn, and so on. As is known, Hubal is the highest and greatest god of the Arabs. The high recognition of the Arabs towards Hubal is to place Hubal in the Kaaba. If Hubal is the greatest god of the Arabs, what needs to be discussed is the position of Al-Lat, Manat, and Al-Uzza. Idols are created because of human intervention. Idols can also be interpreted as the fruit of human work and creation through a process of imagination. After this process, it can be called an idol if it is worshipped by humans. The thing that is being debated is what if what is worshipped is an image or symbol. If the image or symbol is worshipped by humans, intentionally accompanied by the intention that it is a god, then the etymology of the idol will also change, namely not just a statue. Historical facts are that the Arabs have an idol or god named Hubal. It can be concluded that Hubal's position is like the god Zeus or the god Jupiter. All three, both Hubal, Zeus, and Jupiter, are manifested in the form of statues, or in Arab culture are called idols or shanam. Specifically in the discussion here, the term god or idol is considered a single entity because of the strong and deep-rooted understanding in explaining the beliefs of the Arab people before the arrival of Islam. Religion and God are one inseparable unity. Both have a strong attachment in human life. In modern life like today, many debates and even wars in the world are based on claims based on religion. If examined further, wars claim to be based on religion, such as the Israel-Palestine, India-Pakistan, Armenia-Azerbaijan, Sudan-South Sudan. Conflicts are not based on religious differences, but on political, economic, and cultural interests. Moreover, countries that have these differences have a fairly lopsided military power gap. This will lead to invasions by strong countries into weaker countries. The Arabian Peninsula and the Fertile Crescent, Syria, Palestine, Israel, and Jordan, are areas that are believed to have given birth to the world's monotheistic religions. The first humans, Prophet Adam and Sidi Hawa, are believed to have met at Jabal Rahmah, the place of Wukuf during the Hajj process after being sent down to the world. There is no further research on the area where Prophet Adam and Sidi Hawa started the civilization and language of Prophet Adam himself. Research began to be carried out by humans in modern times to search for artifacts of the existence of the Prophet Noah's boat, which is thought to be on Mount Kuti and Mount Ararat, Turkey. Interestingly, in religion, materials are displayed that depict the figure of God. This has been depicted since the birth of the world's ancient civilizations. More ancient than the birth of these civilizations, even the material form of the god worshipped by humans has been depicted in the form of statues during the megalithic period. The sites are spread across various parts of the world and are thought to be older than the civilizations of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. Megalithic is divided into Mesolithic, Neolithic, and Bronze Age. The Mesolithic alone is estimated to have been born in the 10,000s BC. The findings of this data are much older than the civilization of ancient Egypt, which is estimated to be 3000 BC. In Mecca, which is believed to contain the first building in the world, namely the Kaaba, is a holy place for Muslims. In the past before the prophethood, Rasulullah Muhammad, Mecca is a place of idols or gods for the Arab people, especially Arabs Quraysh. Mecca and its Kaaba have a long history in paganism and polytheism. In time, the beginning of the formation of settlements in Mecca, worship in the place was pioneered by the belief of monotheism. He worship only Allah. The historical evidence is based by the history of the Prophet Abraham in establishing settlements in Mecca, was inhabited by his wife, Siti Hajar, and his son, Nabi Ismail. In the area around the Kaaba, Sidi Hajar later found a water source called Zamzam water. Supported by this water source, Mecca was visited by the Jurhum people who came from the area south, Yemen. With Prophet Ismail marrying a woman of this tribe, the Quraysh Arabs, the embryo of Arab civilization new and ancestors of the Prophet, were born in the next era. During the Arab period, the Quraysh ruled Makkah. The city it has changed and is no longer a city with monotheistic worship, but turned into a central city pagan worship and polytheism. The types of gods, deities, or idols that they worship are very numerous, up to hundreds in number, with varying powers. These changes are very interesting to study, namely how the history of monotheism and polytheism from its development and changes in Mecca. In Islamic sources themselves, it is stated that there are only 3 gods or idols that are glorified by the Arabs, namely Manat, al-Uzza, and al-Lat. However, in other letters it is explained that the Arabs also know the gods of the sky, namely the worship and veneration of stars such as the star of al-Shira. Names during the Jahiliyyah period such as Abd Manaf, Abd Shams, and Abd al-Dar also have the potential that the Arabs during the Jahiliyyah period did not only worship Manat, al-Uzza, and al-Lat. The word Abd itself means servant. If combined, it means the servant of Manaf, Siams, and al-Dar. All 3 were gods for the Arabs during the Jahiliyyah period. From these data, research on the names of gods or idols in Arabia during the Jahiliyyah period is also very interesting to study. The first idol worshipped by the Arabs was Hubal. Hubal was the highest god of the Quraysh Arabs in Mecca. Hubal himself was not a native god of the Mecca community. Hubal was introduced by Amr bin Luhai when he returned from Syria while trading. Hubal himself is believed to have come from Moab, now part of Jordan. From an etymological perspective, Hu means God, Baal means ruler. So Hubal has the meaning of the greatest god. Amr bin Luhai was a philanthropist from the Khuza'ah tribe, and he brought Hubal to be made the highest god for the Khuza'ah tribe. It is estimated that Amr bin Luhai introduced Hubal to the Khuza'ah tribe at the end of the 4th century. In its development, Hubal was made the highest god by all the Quraysh Arab tribes after the Quraysh replaced the power and supremacy of the Khuza'ah tribe in Mecca. Hubal is physically a statue made of red stone or cornelian pearl and is shaped like a human. As time progressed, Hubal's right hand broke. The broken hand was eventually replaced by a material made of gold. Hubal also had arrows used for divination by the Quraysh Arabs. It is estimated that Hubal's arrows numbered 10, and some say that Hubal's arrows numbered 7. The number of Hubal's arrows, which numbered 7, is the strongest version. The arrows were made by the Quraysh Arabs so that Hubal could answer their questions. This was done so that Hubal could answer questions or problems experienced by Quraysh Arabs. There is a powerful story about the lottery with arrows Hubal during the Arab Jahiliyyah period in Mecca. Abdul Muttalib, the Prophet's grandfather, once made a vow or promise. Fill in the promise is if he has 10 children, then the youngest child will be sacrificed. The vow uttered by Abdul Muttalib when he only had one boy named Harith when he found a well Zamzam. Abdul Muttalib's 10th child was Abdullah, Prophet's father. When he remembered his oath, Abdul Muttalib wanted to sacrifice Abdullah, just like the Prophet Ibrahim sacrificed Ismail. Before being sacrificed, Abdul Muttalib drew Abdullah with the camel he had on 10 arrows in front of Hubal. The hope was to save Abdullah from sacrifice, as Ismail also survived the sacrifice. The name Abdullah was written on one arrow, while the other 9 arrows represented camels. The lottery was done blindfolded. If the arrow that came out was Abdullah, then Abdullah would be sacrificed. At that time, the punishment for murder was to pay 10 camels. So after being drawn 10 times, the name that came out was still the arrow with the name Abdullah. In the 11th draw, the arrow taken by Abdul Muttalib represented camels. So Abdullah could be saved by replacing it with the slaughter of 100 camels. It is likened here that Abdul Muttalib had sacrificed Abdullah 10 times, and the punishment for 10 sacrifices was 100 camels. After this incident, the punishment for murder in Mecca was replaced with a fine of 100 camels and no longer 10 camels. Regarding the name Abdullah, it can be seen that the track record of the Quraysh Arabs was actually worshippers of one God, namely Allah. Abdullah means servant of Allah. The second god worshipped and adored by the Quraysh Arabs is Manat. Manat is a female god. Manat etymologically means determining or destiny. So Manat is the goddess of fate and destiny. In addition to fate and destiny, Manat is also a representation of the goddess of luck, death, and time. In addition to being a deity of the Quraysh Arabs, Manat is also worshipped by the Aus and Khazraj tribes in Medina. In the main historical reality, Manat is the main idol of the Aus and Khazraj tribes. Manat is older than Allat and al-Uzza. Allat and al-Uzza are described as the siblings of the goddess Manat. So at that time, the Arabs, especially the Quraysh Arabs, knew the concept of the Trinity, namely Manat, Allat, and al-Uzza, in addition to worshipping Hubal as the greatest god. So Manat is an idol of a goddess that cannot be separated from Allat, al-Uzza, or become one unit. In addition to being in the Kaaba, the main temple of goddess Manat is actually in Wadi Khadid, and the name of the place is called Al-Mushyalal. The place is located between Mecca and Medina. The shape of the statue of goddess Manat is made of wood, and there are bloodstains all over the statue because of the many sacrifices made by her worshippers. The way to worship goddess Manat is to stand in front of her by shaving some of the hair. When performing the Hajj in Mecca, the Aus and Khazraj tribes complete their Hajj rituals by worshipping goddess Manat, and they then shave their hair and stay for a while before returning to Medina or Yathrib. The name of goddess Manat is also immortalized in the names of Arabs. For example, Abd Manat bin Kinana and Zayd Manat bin Tamim. Goddess Manat is thought to have come from the Nabatean kingdom centered in Petra, now Jordan. The Nabatean kingdom is thought to have been founded in the 3rd century BC and ended in 106 because it was defeated by the Romans. It is thought to be the same as Hubal, that goddess Manat was known and eventually worshipped by the Arabs, especially the Quraysh Arabs. Indeed, the impact of trade. The Quraysh Arabs saw that the civilization of northern Arabia in the Sham region was very prominent and became one of the centers of world civilization at that time because it was an international trade connecting area known as the Silk Road. The second Trinity goddess is Allat. Goddess Allat too originates from the Nabatean kingdom. The idols of Allat is generally better known as Latta. Worship by Quraysh Arabs is thought to have been strongly influenced by trade at that time. Allat is the goddess of war, peace, and prosperity. Actually, Dewi Allat is the main worship of the existing Bani Saqif in Taif, a city not far from Mecca. In its development, the Quraysh Arabs made it as the main worship and forms the trinity of Manat, Allat, and al-Uzza. Conceptually, Makkah is the center Hajj ritual. Activities are busy every year with people corners of Arabia and even outside of Arabia. Therefore, for guaranteeing the supremacy of Mecca, the Quraysh Arabs made gods from other places to be enshrined in Mecca. This is proof of the openness of Quraysh Arabia as a good host. Indirectly, the Quraysh Arabs provided worship facilities and provided signs of similarity between the Quraysh Arabs in Mecca and the Taif Arabs, or people from other regions. In fact, the Quraysh Arab policy was contrary to the religious life of the Quraysh Arabs because they actually respected their own idol, namely al-Uzza. The al-Uzza idol even had its own temple in Nakhla, called Bayt al-Uzza. Most likely it was an economic factor. Namely, the Quraysh Arabs were reluctant to lose the potential profits they got from the arrival of Arabs from other regions, including Taif, to perform the Hajj ritual in Mecca. Therefore, it is very possible that the 360 idols around the Kaaba are idols that come from other areas outside Mecca. In Taif, Allat is also called Araba and is placed in a temple for special worship of the goddess Allat. Therefore, the Allat temple is called Bayt al-Raba. The area around the temple is considered sacred, namely it is forbidden to cut down trees, hunt animals around it, and there should be no killing in the area around the Allat temple. If you look at these rules, they are like the prohibitions when performing the Hajj and Umrah at the present time. Doing so can be subject to a fine. In Taif at that time, the name Allat was immortalized in a person's name, for example, Zayd Allat and Taim Allat. The goddess Allat is manifested in a square stone made of white granite with a relief of a woman. Worship of goddess Allat is intensely done when going to war and when there is a war, especially a war that lasts a long time and has not found a point of peace, or the winner of the war is not yet known. By worshiping goddess Allat, it is hoped that the war will feel easy and eventually find victory. If the war continues, goddess al-Lat is asked to provide peace and prosperity. The third is goddess al-Uzza. Similar to Manat and al-Lat, al-Uzza is believed to have come from the Nabatean kingdom. The Quraysh Arabs knew al-Uzza, and she was worshipped by them, allegedly because of trade relations. Goddess al-Uzza is a symbol of strength, protection, and love. Goddess al-Uzza is worshipped by the Quraysh Arabs and Kanana Arabs. In Taif, goddess Uzza is not as popular as their main goddess, al-Lat. Many oaths of the Arabs during the Jahiliyyah era always mention the names al-Lat and al-Uzza together and are immortalized in poetry from the Jahiliyyah era. Goddess al-Uzza is manifested in the form of a statue made of stone and in the form of a woman. The main temple of goddess Uzza is in Nakhla, a place between Mecca and Taif. In Mecca itself, the goddess Uzza also became the main worship besides Hubal, Manat, and al-Lat. Even al-Uzza is the idol most revered by Arabs Quraysh. Arabs Quraysh immortalized al-Uzza as a name Abd al-Uzza to boys, which means his servant the mighty or his servant al-Uzza, while for women are al-Uzza. The name al-Uzza was immortalized to be used as a name by Quraysh Arabia, especially by Quraysh officials, shows that al-Uzza is the main idol in the Quraysh Arabian pagan trinity, namely Manat, al-Lat, and al-Uzza. The way to worship is by giving gifts or sacrifices in front of the statue of al-Uzza. On Hajj season during the Jahiliyyah period, Quraysh Arabia, before completing the Hajj ritual, will surround the idol of al-Uzza all day. Another way of worship is by sacrificing humans in the form of boys or girls in front of the idol of al-Uzza. But this is avoided and replaced with animals, such as camels. The idols of the Arab nation as a whole, if added up, can number in the thousands. It is estimated that the beginning of the Arab civilization period began with the Arab Ba'ida, or the Arabs who had disappeared, including the Ad and Thamud people. The Ad themselves are still debated about the existence of their city, namely in the Al-Rub al-Khali desert area. The latest research suggests that the Ad are in Ubar, Sea Ashur, Oman. The ruins are geographically close to the Al-Rub al-Khali desert. The Ad, the people of the Prophet Hud, are thought to have existed together with the Mesopotamian and ancient Egyptian civilizations. So if the Ad civilization was not lost or destroyed by Allah, because they were hostile to the Prophet Hud and his teachings, then the ancient civilization would certainly have increased, namely by including the ancient Arab civilization. In addition to the Ad, Arabia also had the Thamud, the people of Prophet Saleh. The Thamud were also destroyed by Allah because they were hostile to Prophet Saleh and his teachings. The Thamud were located in Madain Saleh, or also known as Al-Hijr. The ruins are located in the province of Medina and close to the ancient city of Al-Ula. So in the presentation of the idols or gods of the Arab nation, not all of them can be displayed due to limited data sources. The following are the names of the idols or gods of the Arab people in general that were worshipped during the Jahiliyyah period, long before Islam, and the idols that were worshipped in the early days of Islam. All friends of Islamic Shade, see you in the next video. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.